Take a slow, gentle breath in and let it ease back out. Allow your shoulders to soften, your jaw to loosen, and your eyes to grow comfortably heavy. Feel the surface beneath you supporting your body, steady and kind. There is nowhere you need to go. Nothing you need to do except rest here, listening. With each quiet breath, you can sink a little deeper into calm, as if the night itself is tucking you in. And when you are ready, when the world feels just a little farther away. Our story today begins in a place where time moves slowly, and the stars still matter. Our story today begins at the edge of a quiet stone village, long before sunrise, when the sky is still deep and blue and scattered with fading stars. The air is cool, almost silky, brushing gently against the skin, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. In this village, the houses are small and sturdy, built of pale stone that holds the day's warmth and releases it slowly into the night. Everything is still. Even the birds are sleeping. In one of these houses, tucked close to the village square, a baker is already awake. His name is not important. In villages like this, names are simple, often shared, and rarely spoken aloud in the early hours. What matters is his rhythm. He rises before dawn, as bakers once did in medieval times when bread had to be ready by morning light. He moves quietly so as not to wake the rest of the village, his footsteps soft against the worn wooden floor. He lights a small lantern, its flame steady and warm, and the room fills with a gentle amber glow. Shadows stretch lazily along the stone walls. The baker pauses for a moment, breathing in, breathing out, letting the calm of the night settle into his bones. Outside, the stars are still visible through the small window, scattered like fine grains of flour across the sky. He begins his work. From a wooden chest, he scoops flour with practiced hands. In medieval villages, bakers often measured by feel and memory rather than strict numbers, and this baker is no different. He knows the weight of flour by the way it falls, the way it settles, the soft sound it makes when it lands in the bowl. He works by lantern light, just as real bakers once worked by moon and fire, long before clocks ruled the day. As he mixes water and grain, he glances up at the window. There, just above the roofline, a familiar pattern of stars lingers. He smiles softly. While others see only night, he sees a map. You see, this baker has a quiet secret. Alongside his love for bread, he carries a deep, gentle curiosity about the sky. Night after night, season after season, he has learned the constellations, not from books but from watching, from noticing how the stars shift, how some return faithfully while others slowly drift away. As his hands knead the dough, slow and steady, his mind drifts upward. He counts the stars he can still see, tracing their paths in his memory. In medieval times, many ordinary people knew the sky well. Farmers, sailors, shepherds, and sometimes even bakers. The stars told them when to plant, when to travel, when to expect the changing of the seasons. The dough grows warm beneath his palms. The baker's movements are unhurried, almost meditative. Press, fold, turn, press, fold, turn. Each motion is smooth, predictable, calming. You might imagine the soft sound of dough meeting wood, the quiet creak of the table, the faint crackle of the lantern flame. Outside, a gentle breeze passes through the village, rustling leaves along the stone paths. Somewhere far off, an owl shifts on its perch. The night feels wide and kind, as if it is watching over everything. When the dough is ready, the baker covers it with a cloth and sets it aside to rest. Bread, like people, needs time. Time to rise, time to breathe. He knows this well. He washes his hands in cool water, the sensation refreshing and soothing, then steps closer to the window. The stars are fading now, slowly giving way to the promise of dawn. Still, he can see enough. He lifts a small piece of charcoal and marks a simple symbol on a scrap of parchment. Nothing fancy, just a reminder of what he has seen. Over the years, he has collected many such marks, a quiet record of the sky's gentle order. He feels no rush. Morning will come when it comes. The oven begins to warm, fire catching softly within its stone belly. The baker adds wood carefully, listening to the low, comforting sounds of crackling embers. Warmth spreads through the room, mingling with the cool night air that slips in through the window. Soon, the scent of baking bread will drift through the village, waking the sleepers in the most peaceful way. As the baker waits, he sits on a low stool, hands resting loosely in his lap. He breathes slowly, deeply, matching the calm rhythm of the world around him. Above, the stars continue their silent journey, whether watched or not. And here, as you listen, you may notice your own breathing becoming slower, smoother. Like the dough resting under its cloth, you are allowed to rest too. There is nothing to solve, nothing to count, just the quiet warmth of this moment. The baker rises again, gently, and slides the loaves into the oven. The day will arrive soon. But for now, the night still belongs to the stars and to rest. Our story continues as the oven hums with a low, steady warmth, like a deep, comforting breath. The baker listens to it with half-closed eyes, as if listening to an old friend. In medieval villages, ovens were often the warm heart of a home, and sometimes of the whole community. Their heat was reliable, patient, and slow, never rushed, never sharp. This baker trusts that warmth completely. Outside, the sky is changing. The deep blue of night begins to soften, fading gently into pale grey. The stars thin out one by one, slipping away without sound. The baker notices this with a quiet sense of satisfaction. He has already counted them. He has already remembered them. There is nothing more they ask of him right now. He lifts the cloth from the resting dough, and a faint, yeasty scent rises into the air. It is warm and comforting, the smell of patience rewarded. He shapes the loaves carefully, hands moving with a calm certainty, learned over many years. Medieval bakers often worked by touch and instinct, and his hands seem to know exactly what to do, even when his mind wanders upward toward the sky. As he works, the village remains asleep. Doors are closed, windows are dark. Only the baker's home glows, a small island of light in the quiet sea of stone houses. If you imagine standing there, you might hear only the soft crackle of firewood, the distant sigh of wind, and the gentle rhythm of the baker's breath. When the loaves are finally placed inside the oven, he closes the heavy door with care. He does not slam it. He never does. Sound carries far in the stillness of early morning, and he respects the sleep of others. The oven door settles into place with a muted thud, and the fire resumes its steady whisper. Now there is time. The baker pours himself a small cup of water and drinks slowly. Each sip is deliberate, grounding. He sits again by the window, this time wrapping a simple wool shawl around his shoulders. The stone walls hold the cold of night, but the oven's warmth is slowly spreading, pressing back against it. He looks up. Though most of the stars have faded, a few still linger, stubborn and pale. He recognizes them instantly. In medieval times, constellations were not only stories but tools, guides for travelers, and markers of time. The baker traces their familiar shapes in the air with one finger, barely moving it, as if not to disturb them. You might notice now that your own thoughts are slowing. Like the stars, they can drift away without effort. You do not need to follow them. You can simply let them fade into the gentle background of this quiet village. The baker remembers how, as a child, he first learned the names of the stars. An old traveler had passed through the village one winter, warming himself by this very oven. He spoke softly of the sky, of patterns that never truly vanished, only changed. The baker had listened, wide-eyed, feeling something settle deep inside him, something calm and steady. That feeling returns now. The fire pops softly. The oven radiates comfort. The smell of bread begins to grow richer, fuller, filling the room with a sense of completion. In medieval villages, bread was more than food. It was reassurance, a promise that the day would begin well. The baker closes his eyes for a moment, just a moment. He knows the timing by heart. He will not sleep, but he allows himself to rest in stillness. His breathing slows, in and out, in and out. The world outside remains hushed, as if honoring this pause. And you, listening, may feel something similar. A gentle heaviness behind the eyes, a pleasant warmth spreading through the chest. This is the feeling of safety, of enough. Soon the first bird will stir, soon the village will wake. But not yet, not yet. For now there is only the baker, the oven, and the memory of stars slowly dissolving into morning light. And there is you, resting quietly, carried along by the same unhurried rhythm. Very gently, let the calm stay with you. Nothing needs to change. Our story moves forward as the first hint of morning breathes quietly into the village. It is not yet dawn, not truly. It is that soft, in-between time when the night loosens its hold, but the day has not yet arrived. The baker senses it without looking. His body knows this hour well, just as it knows the feel of dough and the warmth of fire. He rises from his stool and stretches slowly, careful and unhurried. His joints move with a soft familiarity, like old wooden doors opening without complaint. In medieval times, work began early, often before the sun, and the body learned to follow the rhythms of nature rather than the numbers of a clock. The baker belongs to this rhythm completely. He opens the oven door just enough to peer inside. A wave of warmth rolls out, gentle and steady. The loaves are taking shape, their surfaces slowly firming, their color deepening into a soft, comforting brown. He smiles, just barely. There is a quiet joy in seeing things progress exactly as they should. Outside, a breeze passes through the narrow street, stirring a few loose leaves along the stone. Somewhere, a rooster shifts in its sleep but does not yet crow. The world seems to be holding its breath. The baker closes the oven again and turns to his small wooden table. On it lies the parchment where he marks the stars. He smooths it with his hand, feeling the faint texture beneath his fingers. The markings are simple, dots and lines, but they hold years of careful watching. He does not think of them as important. They are simply part of his life, like flour dusting his sleeves or the smell of smoke in his hair. He adds a small mark for this morning, then sets the charcoal aside. As he waits, he begins a quiet task, cleaning his tools. A wooden spoon worn smooth by use. A bowl with a small crack along its rim. An iron fire tong resting beside the hearth. Each item is placed carefully, respectfully, back where it belongs. In medieval households, tools were precious, often lasting a lifetime. Caring for them was a kind of gratitude. The baker's movements are slow and rhythmic. Lift, wipe, set down, lift, wipe, set down. The repetition is soothing, almost hypnotic. You might imagine the soft scrape of cloth against wood, the faint clink of iron, the steady sound of breath moving in and out. As you listen, you may notice your own body mirroring this calm. Muscles loosening, thoughts spacing themselves farther apart. There is no need to follow the story closely now. You can simply let it wash over you like warm air from the oven. The baker glances again at the window. The sky has lightened to a pale silver. The stars are gone now, but he knows exactly where they were. He could point to them even in daylight. Their patterns live quietly in his memory, steady and unchanging. He thinks of how bread too follows patterns. The same steps, the same patience, day after day. There is comfort in that. Medieval life was often uncertain. Harsh winters, poor harvests, but bread was a constant. The baker takes pride in being part of that constancy. A soft crack from the oven tells him it is nearly time. He moves closer, opens the door fully now, and the room fills with the rich scent of fresh bread. It is warm, grounding, familiar. The loaves are ready. He uses the iron tongs to lift them out, placing them gently on a wooden rack. Steam rises slowly, curling into the air before fading away. He does not rush to touch them. He knows they need a moment, just like everything else. Outside, a faint light touches the edges of the rooftops. The village is beginning to stir, though no one is awake yet. Soon, footsteps will sound, doors will open, voices will return, but for now, this quiet moment belongs to the baker alone. He stands there, hands resting lightly on the table, breathing in the scent of bread and listening to the gentle hush of the world. Above, though unseen, the stars continue their paths, steady and sure. And you, listening now, can let that steadiness carry you. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to remember. Like the baker's loaves cooling on the rack, you can simply rest. Our story drifts onward as the loaves cool in their quiet line, resting on the wooden rack like small, patient moons. The baker does not touch them yet. He knows that bread speaks in its own time, cooling slowly, settling into itself. In medieval kitchens, this waiting was understood as part of the craft. Rushing would only disturb what had already been done so carefully. He steps back and wipes his hands on a simple linen cloth, the fabric rough but familiar. The room feels fuller now, warmed by the oven and scented with grain and fire. It is the kind of warmth that does not press or overwhelm, but gently surrounds like a thick wool blanket on a cold night. Outside, the first bird finally sings. Just one note, brief and tentative, as if testing the morning. The sound drifts in through the window and fades again into silence. The baker listens, head tilted slightly, then returns his attention to the room. He moves toward the hearth and kneels to tend the embers, using the iron fire tongs to shift a glowing piece of wood. A small shower of sparks lifts and disappears. He adds another log, slow and careful, and the fire answers with a soft crackle. The sound is comforting, steady, deeply familiar. As the baker works, he thinks, without effort, about the balance between night and day, how the stars guide him in darkness, and the oven guides him in light. In medieval times, many people lived close to these natural transitions, noticing the subtle changes that modern life often overlooks. This baker feels at home in those quiet spaces between. He stands and stretches again, then steps outside for a moment. The village street is still empty. Stone walls glow faintly in the growing light, and the air smells clean, touched with dew. He takes a slow breath, filling his lungs with the coolness of early morning. Above him, the sky is pale now, almost white, the last traces of night dissolving gently away. He looks upward out of habit, even though the stars are gone. He imagines them there anyway, resting beyond sight. This small ritual brings him comfort, a reminder that some things remain constant, even when unseen. You might imagine standing beside him now, feeling that same cool air on your skin, the quiet of a world just about to wake, the sense that nothing is demanding your attention, everything is exactly as it should be. The baker returns inside, closing the door softly behind him. The room welcomes him back with warmth. He checks the loaves again, touching one lightly now. It is firm and ready. Satisfied, he begins to arrange them into wicker baskets, lining each basket with cloth to keep the bread warm. In medieval villages, bread was often carried this way, delivered fresh to households or sold from small shops like this one. The baker works slowly, deliberately, placing each loaf as if it was something precious. In a way it is. As he works, his thoughts drift once more to the sky. He remembers a night not long ago when clouds had hidden the stars completely. Even then, he had felt calm. He knew they were still there, moving silently above the cloud cover, following paths older than memory. That same trust fills him now. The baskets are soon ready. He sets them near the door, preparing for the village to wake. But there is still time. A few more moments of quiet before the day begins, in earnest. He sits again, this time closing his eyes fully. Just for a breath or two. The fire murmurs. The bread rests, the world waits. And as you listen, you may feel yourself sinking deeper into that same pause. Thoughts drifting like clouds across a pale sky. Nothing to follow, nothing to hold, just the gentle rhythm of breath and warmth. The baker opens his eyes and smiles faintly. Soon footsteps will echo outside. Soon voices will rise. But the calm of this hour will stay with him, just as the memory of stars stays with him through the day. And you too can carry this calm wherever your dreams may lead. Our story continues as the village finally begins to stir, though it does so slowly, like a sleeper stretching beneath a heavy quilt. A distant door creaks open. Somewhere, a pot is set down gently. These sounds are faint and unhurried, drifting through the early morning air without urgency. The baker hears them, but he does not rush. He has learned over many years that mornings unfold best when they are allowed to arrive at their own pace. In medieval life, the day followed the sun, not the clock, and this gentle patience shaped the rhythm of work and rest alike. He lifts one of the wicker baskets and carries it to the small counter near the window. The basket is light but warm, the bread inside holding the oven's comfort like a quiet secret. He sets it down and straightens the cloth lining, smoothing out a small crease with his fingertips. Sunlight begins to touch the window now, pale and mild. It does not glare or shine sharply. It simply arrives, resting on the stone sill, catching dust motes as they float lazily in the air. The baker watches them for a moment, their slow, drifting dance, reminding him of stars seen through thin cloud. He moves again, sweeping the floor with a short, well-worn broom. The sound is soft and rhythmic, brush, pause, brush, never hurried. Cleanliness in a medieval bakery was a quiet necessity, not a spectacle. The baker works with care, respecting the space that gives him his living. As he sweeps, he hums, barely louder than a breath. The tune has no words. It is something he learned long ago, perhaps from his mother, perhaps from no one at all. It fits easily into the quiet morning, adding warmth without demanding attention. You might notice now that the edges of the story feel less defined. That is perfectly fine. You do not need to hold on to every detail. Like the baker's hum, the words are meant to blend gently into the background of your thoughts. A soft knock sounds at the door. The baker does not startle. He expected it. He sets the broom aside and opens the door, just enough to greet the first customer of the day. An elderly neighbor stands there, wrapped in a simple cloak, her breath visible in the cool air. They exchange few words, just a nod, a smile, the quiet understanding that comes from shared routines. He hands her a loaf, warm and comforting. She presses a coin into his palm, their hands touching briefly. In medieval villages, such exchanges were common, woven into daily life like threads in cloth. The door closes softly again. The baker returns to his counter, the room settling back into calm. More customers will come soon, but there is still space between them. Space to breathe, space to think. He glances once more at the parchment where he marks the stars. In the light of morning, the charcoal lines look faint, almost insignificant. And yet he knows what they represent. Order, continuity. A reminder that even in the darkest hours, there is structure above. He folds the parchment carefully and places it back where it belongs. As the sun rises higher, the shadows in the room shorten. The warmth remains steady, comforting rather than intense. The baker feels a pleasant tiredness in his muscles, the kind that comes from meaningful work done at a gentle pace. And as you listen, you may feel something similar. A soft heaviness, a sense of having done enough for now. There is nothing left to prepare for, nothing waiting for you beyond this calm moment. The baker leans against the counter and takes another slow breath. In and out. In and out. The day has begun, but the peace of the night lingers, carried forward like a quiet blessing. Above the village, unseen and untroubled, the stars continue their endless paths. The baker does not need to see them to know they are there. And you do not need to stay awake to follow this story. You can let it fade gently, like starlight at dawn. Our story drifts onward as the morning grows a little brighter, though it never loses its softness. The village does not burst into noise or movement. Instead, it awakens in layers, one gentle sound at a time. A second door opens. A pair of footsteps cross the square and fade again. The baker notices these changes without focusing on them, the way one notices breathing without trying to control it. He prepares another basket of bread, arranging the loaves carefully, each one touching the next. There is a quiet satisfaction in this simple symmetry. In medieval times, repetition was not boredom, it was reassurance. Doing the same thing each day meant that life was still moving as it should. The baker carries the basket to the front and sets it beside the first. He pauses, resting his hands on the edge of the counter. The stone beneath his palms is cool, grounding him. He breathes slowly, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest. For a moment, his thoughts return to the stars, not as images, but as a feeling. A sense of vastness that somehow makes small things feel safe. When he looks at the sky at night, he does not feel lost. He feels held, as if the world has an order that does not depend on him alone. This thought brings him comfort now in the growing light. Another customer arrives, then another. Each exchange is quiet, brief, and familiar. A nod, a soft word, the gentle rustle of cloth, the clink of a coin. The baker's voice is low and calm, never rising above the soft sounds of the room. He moves with the same unhurried rhythm, whether he is alone or with others. You may notice that your own awareness is drifting, moving less toward the details and more toward the feeling beneath them. That is exactly as it should be. You do not need to picture every scene clearly. You can let them blur together, like shapes seen through morning mist. Between customers, the baker steps outside again. The sun is higher now, but the air is still cool. He looks down the stone street, watching as light slowly fills the spaces between buildings. He listens to the village, soft voices, distant laughter, the muted sounds of life continuing gently onward. He tilts his head and listens for something else as well. Though the stars are long gone from view, he senses the quiet they leave behind, a kind of silence that remains even after sound fades. It is the same silence he feels in the bakery during the night before the fire is lit. He returns inside, closing the remaining loaves are nearly gone now. The baskets are lighter. The room feels spacious, open. The work of the night and early morning is complete. There will be more later, more mixing, more baking, but not now. Now there is space for rest. The baker sits once more on his low stool, this time leaning back against the wall. He closes his eyes. The stone is cool against his shoulders, a pleasant contrast to the warmth still lingering in the room. He allows himself a longer pause, trusting the day to carry on without him for a few moments. In medieval life, such pauses were woven naturally into the day. Work and rest flowed into each other, guided by light, hunger, and fatigue. The baker does not think of this as resting. He simply allows stillness to happen. You may feel that stillness now too. A gentle quiet spreading through your thoughts. A sense that nothing needs your attention. That you are allowed to drift. The baker's breathing is slow and even. Outside, the village continues its soft awakening. Inside, the fire settles into a low, steady glow. Everything is balanced. Everything is enough. And as this calm moment stretches on, you can let yourself sink further into it, carried by the same steady rhythm that guides the baker through night and day. Our story continues as the baker remains seated, his back against the cool stone wall, eyes closed, breathing slow and steady. The bakery feels different now, not busy, not empty, but complete. The work that needed to be done has been done, and the space seems to recognize this, settling into a deeper quiet. The fire has softened into glowing embers, their light pulsing faintly, like a calm heartbeat. The scent of bread lingers in the air, warm and reassuring, mingling with the faint mineral smell of stone and ash. This combination of scents has followed the baker his entire life, becoming as familiar as his own breath. Outside, the village continues to wake in small, unremarkable ways. A cart rolls slowly over the stones, wheels creaking in a steady rhythm. Somewhere nearby, water is poured into a basin. These sounds drift in and out of the bakery, never sharp, never demanding attention. The baker opens his eyes briefly, not because he must, but because he feels ready to. Light fills the room now, though it remains gentle, filtered through the small window and softened by the thickness of the walls. Dust motes float lazily through the air, moving so slowly they seem almost suspended. He stands and stretches once more, then begins to tidy the space in a way that feels almost ceremonial. The counter is wiped clean, the baskets are stacked neatly, the tools are returned to their places. Each movement is unhurried, mindful, as if he is honoring the quiet that has carried him through the night. In medieval times, such simple order was not about appearance, it was about harmony. A well-kept space reflected a settled mind. The baker feels this connection without naming it. He simply moves, breath matching motion, motion matching breath. As he finishes, he pauses near the window again. Though the stars are far from view now, the sky beyond the glass is a calm, pale blue. He studies it the way he studies the night sky, without expectation, without urgency, just noticing. You might notice now that the story feels farther away, as if you are listening from a comfortable distance. That is perfectly fine. You are not meant to stay alert. You are meant to drift, letting the words become softer, less distinct. The baker thinks of the coming night, though it is still hours away. He knows that when darkness returns, he will look up again. He will count the stars. He will trace their familiar patterns. This thought brings him a quiet sense of continuity. The day and night are not separate things, they are parts of the same slow circle. He steps outside one last time, locking the bakery door behind him. The stone street is brighter now, but still calm. People move about quietly, greeting one another in low voices. The baker nods as he passes, his basket empty, his work complete. As he walks, he feels the pleasant weight of tiredness settling into his limbs. It is not exhaustion, but a gentle signal that rest is near. In medieval life, such tiredness was welcomed. It meant the body was ready to release its hold on effort. He reaches his home and opens the door, stepping into the cool, dim interior. The contrast from the morning light is soothing. He sets his basket down, removes his shawl, and sits at a small table. For a moment, he does nothing at all. The silence wraps around him like soft fabric, and you, listening now, may feel that same wrapping calm. Your thoughts may slow even further. Your awareness may narrow to simple sensations: breath, warmth, heaviness. There is no need to stay with the story closely anymore. It will continue without you. The baker closes his eyes again, letting the morning pass gently around him. The stars will return when they are ready. Until then, there is rest. Our story flows onward as the baker remains seated in the quiet dimness of his home, the morning light softened by thick stone walls and a small shuttered window. Inside, the air feels cool and still, carrying the faint echo of warmth from earlier work. The world outside continues on, but here, time stretches gently, like dough resting before its final rise. The baker rests his hands on the table, palms open, fingers relaxed. His breathing is deep and even, guided by habit rather than thought. In medieval homes, moments like this were not planned, they simply happened, woven naturally between tasks. Rest was not something earned, it was something accepted. A soft breeze slips through a narrow crack in the window, carrying with it the distant sounds of the village, a muted voice, the clink of metal, the faint call of a vendor far away. These sounds arrive gently, then fade, never lingering long enough to demand attention. The baker leans back in his chair and lets his eyes remain closed. Behind his eyelids, familiar images drift. Stars scattered across dark velvet sky, the steady glow of the oven, the pale curve of dough rising patiently in its bowl. These images do not form a story, they simply exist like memories floating lazily on water. You may notice that your own thoughts are beginning to behave in the same way, appearing softly, fading without effort. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing you need to follow. The baker's body begins to relax more fully now. His shoulders drop, his jaw loosens. The gentle tiredness he felt earlier deepens into something heavier, something closer to sleep. In medieval life, daytime rest was common for those who worked through the night. The body understood when it was time to release. Outside, clouds drift slowly across the sky, softening the sunlight even further. Shadows move across the village like long, slow breaths. The baker does not see this, but he senses it. His connection to the rhythms of the day runs deeper than sight. He shifts slightly in his chair, finding a more comfortable position. The wood creaks quietly beneath him, then settles. He smiles faintly, not fully awake, not fully asleep. Just balanced, hovering in the space between. As you listen, you may feel yourself hovering too, the weight of your body supported, the edges of your awareness softening. It is perfectly fine if the story feels distant now. It is doing its work quietly, without effort. The baker's breathing grows slower, in and out, in and out. Each breath seems to carry him a little farther from the waking world. The stars return to him again, not as points of light, but as a feeling of vast calm, a sense that everything is connected, ordered, and gently moving along its path. Time passes without being counted. At some point, the baker drifts into a light sleep. His head tilts slightly, his hands remain open on the table. Outside, the village continues, unaware and undisturbed. This is how it has always been. One person resting while another works, one moment yielding to the next. And you too can allow yourself to drift now. You do not need to stay awake to hear what comes next. The story will continue quietly like the stars moving across the sky, whether watched or not. Our story continues in the quiet stretch of the morning, when the baker sleeps lightly at his table, breathing slow and deep. The room seems to breathe with him. The stone walls hold the coolness of night, while faint warmth lingers like a memory, tucked into corners and seams. Nothing moves quickly here, nothing needs to. Outside, time slides forward without announcement. The sun climbs higher, then drifts behind thin clouds, softening its presence. Light changes almost imperceptibly, like a long sigh. The village hums gently now, never loud, never sharp, just a low, steady murmur of life continuing as it always has. The baker shifts slightly in his sleep. His mind drifts through familiar places without effort. He walks again beneath the night sky, flower still on his hands, lantern light glowing at his side. Above him, stars arrange themselves into patterns he knows by heart. He counts them without numbers, simply recognizing their shapes and spacing the way one recognizes an old melody. In medieval times, sleep was often lighter and shorter, woven into the day wherever it fit. People rested when the body asked for it, not when a bell or clock demanded. The baker's sleep now is gentle and unguarded, a natural continuation of the night's work. A soft sound enters the room, the faint flutter of a curtain stirred by the breeze. It moves once, then settles again. The baker's breathing remains steady. His body trusts the quiet. If you notice your own awareness drifting, that is exactly right. You do not need to stay alert. You can let the story become a distant background like wind moving through trees far away. The baker's dreams shift slowly. The stars fade into the glow of the oven. The oven fades into the rhythm of kneading. Press, fold, turn, press, fold, turn. Each movement echoes gently, repetitive and calming. There is no beginning or end to it, only flow. Time continues to pass. At some point, the baker's eyes open briefly. Light fills the room now, though it is still gentle, diffused by cloud and stone. He blinks once, then again, orienting himself without hurry. He does not feel startled or rushed. He feels rested. He stands slowly, joints moving with familiar ease. He pours himself a small cup of water and drinks, savoring the coolness. The simple act grounds him, brings him fully back into the present moment. He opens the window wider now, allowing fresh air to move through the room. The breeze carries with it the scent of earth and distant greenery. He breathes it in, then lets it go. The baker does not return to work right away. There is nothing urgent to do. The next batch of bread will come later when the light shifts again. For now, he allows himself to simply be. He steps outside, squinting slightly as his eyes adjust to the brightness. The village square is alive now, but still calm. People move with purpose, but without haste. Children's voices drift softly, then fade. A dog lies in the shade, unmoving. The baker walks slowly, feeling the stones beneath his feet. He greets a neighbor with a nod. He pauses near the well, listening to the sound of water being drawn up, the rope creaking softly. These everyday sounds form a gentle tapestry, steady and reassuring. As he stands there, he looks up at the sky again. No stars now, only pale blue and drifting cloud. Still the same sense of order remains. The sky feels vast and patient, unchanged by whether it is watched or not. This thought brings him peace, and you, listening now, may feel that peace too. A quiet acceptance, a sense that everything is moving as it should, without effort from you. The baker turns and walks back toward his home, unhurried, steps even and slow. The day will continue. The night will return. The stars will come back, one by one, right on time. For now, there is only this gentle moment, and you can let it carry you deeper into rest, knowing there is nothing more you need to do. Our story drifts onward as the day gently unfolds around the baker, each moment arriving without urgency. He returns inside his stone home, closing the door with care, the wooden latch settling into place with a muted sound. The quiet wraps around him again, familiar and comforting, like a well-worn cloak. Inside, the room feels calm and balanced. Light rests on the floor in pale shapes, shifting slowly as clouds pass overhead. Dust motes float lazily in the air, catching the light and releasing it again. The baker moves through the space with unhurried ease, his body remembering every corner, every worn stone, every wooden beam. He sits once more, this time near the hearth, though no fire burns now. The ashes are cool, pale grey, holding the memory of warmth. In medieval homes, fires were precious, tended carefully, never wasted. Even when unlit, the hearth remained the heart of the room, a place of gathering, of quiet reflection. The baker closes his eyes again, just for a moment. His thoughts drift like thin clouds passing without form. There is no need to shape them, no need to follow them. They come and they go. If you notice your own thoughts doing the same, that is perfectly fine. You do not need to hold on to anything. You can let the mind rest, just as the body rests. Outside, the sounds of the village soften as the afternoon stretches on. Footsteps become less frequent. Voices fade. Even the birds seem to pause, resting in shaded branches. The world breathes out. The baker's breathing deepens once more. In and out. Slow, steady. Each breath seems to anchor him more firmly in this quiet moment. He feels the solidness of the ground beneath him, the steady presence of the walls around him. There is safety here. There is continuity. His mind wanders gently back to the stars, not as objects to be counted now, but as companions, fixed points in a vast, moving sky. In the medieval world, stars were guides, markers of time, symbols of order in an uncertain life. To the baker, they are simply familiar friends. He imagines the night returning, the sky darkening gradually, the first star appearing faint and tentative, then another, and another, each one finding its place without confusion, without rush. This image soothes him deeply. You may find that your awareness is growing dimmer now, like the light at dusk. Sounds may feel farther away. The weight of your body may feel heavier, more settled. This is a natural drift, and you can allow it completely. The baker's head tilts slightly as he relaxes further. His thoughts slow until they barely form at all. There is no inner dialogue, no planning, no remembering. Only a sense of being held by the moment. Time stretches again, unmeasured. Eventually, the baker stands and prepares for the evening's work. But this preparation is slow, almost ritualistic. He washes his hands in cool water. He arranges his tools carefully. Each motion is deliberate, calming, familiar. There is no tension in it. As twilight approaches, the light shifts once more, turning warmer, softer. Shadows lengthen across the room. The baker lights his lantern again, the flame steady and small. Its glow creates a circle of warmth in the gathering dimness. The cycle begins again, just as it always has. And as you listen, you do not need to follow the baker any further. The rhythm of his life continues quietly on its own. You can remain here, in this calm space, letting the words fade into the background. The story will keep moving, like the stars across the sky, whether you are awake to hear it or not. Our story continues as evening settles fully over the village, arriving not all at once, but in gentle layers. The baker stands quietly at his table, lantern light glowing low and warm, casting soft halos against the stone walls. Outside, the last traces of daylight slip away, leaving the sky muted and deep. The village responds to the dark with ease. Doors close softly, footsteps grow rare. The sounds of the day fold themselves away, one by one. What remains is a calm, steady quiet, broken only by the occasional distant cough of a fire or the slow creak of wood cooling in the night air. The baker measures flour again, just as he did before dawn. In medieval kitchens, bakers relied on instinct and experience rather than exact scales. The weight of flour in the hands told them what they needed to know. He lifts, pours, and smooths the pale powder, movements unhurried, practiced, reassuring. As he works, his mind remains calm and open. There is no strain in his thoughts, no rush toward an end. Each action exists for its own sake, stirring, folding, waiting. This slow repetition has carried him through many nights, grounding him when the world felt uncertain. If you are still listening, you may notice how soothing repetition can be. You do not need variety right now. You do not need change. Familiar rhythms are enough. The baker pauses, resting his hands on the edge of the table. He listens. The night has its own sounds, subtle and distant. Wind brushing against stone. Leaves rustling softly. Somewhere far away an owl calls once, then falls silent. He lifts his gaze toward the small window near the ceiling. Through it, the stars have returned. They shine steadily, unblinking, scattered across the dark sky. He recognizes them immediately. The same patterns, the same spacing, reliable, constant. In the medieval world, many believed the stars influenced daily life, shaping harvests, health, and fate. Whether or not this was true mattered less than the comfort the belief brought. The idea that the heavens followed a pattern gave people peace. The baker feels that peace now. He does not question it. He simply allows it to settle inside him. The dough rests quietly nearby, covered and patient. It does not rush. It knows its time will come. The baker trusts this process completely. He has learned that forcing things only disrupts their natural rhythm. You too can trust the rhythm you are in now. There is no need to stay awake, no need to listen closely. The words can wash over you like a gentle tide. The lantern flame flickers slightly, responding to a faint shift in air. Shadows dance briefly along the walls, then settle again. The baker's eyes grow heavy, though he remains standing, grounded by the familiar weight of the work. He takes a slow breath in, then out. Each breath feels deeper than the last. The night wraps around him, steady and calm. Eventually he moves to the hearth and lights a small fire, just enough to warm the oven. The sound of flame catching is soft and controlled. He tends it carefully, adding fuel bit by bit. In medieval times, managing fire was a constant task, requiring patience and attention. Tonight, it feels almost meditative. As the oven warms, the baker steps back and waits. Waiting has become one of his greatest skills. He knows that some things cannot be hurried, no matter how much one might want them to be. The stars continue their slow movement overhead, barely perceptible, silent, certain. And as the baker waits, you may find that your own sense of time is loosening. Minutes feel longer, thoughts feel farther away. The boundary between story and sleep grows thinner. That is exactly as it should be. Gently, as if you are floating just above the night. Nothing to hold. Nothing to do. Our story continues as the oven slowly reaches its warmth, not with haste, but with a patient, steady glow. The baker sits nearby on a low wooden stool, hands resting loosely in his lap. He does not watch the fire closely now. He has learned to feel its readiness rather than measure it. The room is filled with a quiet balance, heat and cool, light and shadow, stillness and breath. The lantern flickers softly, its flame steady and calm. The stone walls absorb the warmth gradually, releasing it back into the space like a long, gentle exhale. Outside, the night deepens. Stars shift almost imperceptibly, tracing their ancient paths across the sky. Clouds pass now and then, thin and pale, momentarily veiling the light before moving on. The baker glances up once more, recognizing the slow turning of the heavens without effort. In medieval times, nights like this were familiar companions. Without artificial light to overpower the dark, people lived closely with the sky. The baker feels connected to it now, as though his quiet work mirrors the steady movement above. The dough has risen gently, just enough. He lifts the cloth carefully, releasing a faint, warm scent into the room. The smell is comforting and familiar, carrying memories of countless nights just like this one. Bread has always been more than food. It is rhythm, patience, survival. He shapes the loaves slowly, pressing and folding with practiced hands. Press, fold, turn. Each movement is smooth and unforced. The repetition is calming, almost hypnotic. His breathing matches the pace of his hands, slow and steady. If you are still listening, you may notice how your own breathing naturally follows this rhythm. There is no need to adjust it. Your body knows what to do. The baker places the shaped loaves onto a wooden board dusted lightly with flour. The pale surface catches the lantern light softly, edges glowing warm gold. He pauses, looking at them without judgment, without expectation. They will become what they are meant to become. He slides the loaves into the oven with care, using a long wooden peel worn smooth by years of use. The motion is slow, precise, respectful. The oven door closes with a gentle thud, sealing the warmth inside. Now comes the waiting again. The baker returns to his stool and sits quietly, listening to the subtle sounds of baking, the faint crackle of heat, the quiet expansion within the loaves. These sounds are barely audible, but he knows them well. They speak of transformation happening slowly, unseen. The night seems to grow even quieter, as if honoring this moment. The stars outside continue their silent watch. Somewhere far away, a bell tolls once, marking an hour, then fades into the distance. You may feel yourself drifting further now, the edges of awareness softening. The story no longer needs your attention. It is enough that it continues, steady and calm. The baker's eyes close briefly. He trusts his timing. He trusts the oven. He trusts the night. There is no anxiety here, no doubt. Only quiet confidence born of repetition and care. As he sits, his thoughts dissolve into sensation. The warmth on his face, the cool stone beneath his feet, the gentle rise and fall of his breath. Time stretches, then seems to disappear altogether. This is the heart of his work, not the finished bread, but these moments of stillness in between. And you can rest here too. There is nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to follow. You can allow the words to become soft echoes, fading gently into the background. The baker remains still, the loaves quietly baking, the stars slowly turning overhead. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. Softly, as if the night is holding you. You don't need to listen closely anymore. Our story continues in the deep middle of the night when time feels wide and unmeasured. The baker remains seated, still and patient, as the oven works quietly behind its stone door. The warmth spreads slowly through the room, not overwhelming, just enough to be comforting. The lantern's flame has lowered now, its light softer, more golden. Shadows no longer move much. They seem to have settled into their places, resting against the walls and beams. The baker's breathing is slow and even, his body relaxed, balanced between wakefulness and rest. Outside, the village sleeps, windows are dark, paths are empty. The night air carries a gentle coolness that moves across the stone like a whisper. Somewhere, far beyond the village, the land stretches open and silent, fields resting beneath the stars. The baker opens the oven briefly to check the loaves. A soft wave of warm air escapes, carrying the deep, comforting scent of bread. It fills the room, wrapping around him like a memory. He smiles faintly, satisfied, then closes the door again. In medieval times, the smell of baking bread was a signal of continuity and survival. It meant nourishment was coming. It meant the night's work was nearly complete. For the baker, it is simply a familiar reassurance, steady and calm. He returns to his seat and waits a little longer. Waiting no longer feels like waiting at all. It feels like floating inside a quiet moment that has no edges. You may notice that your thoughts are growing softer now, less defined, more distant. This is natural. You can let them fade without effort. The baker's gaze drifts upward again, toward the small window. The stars appear brighter now, sharper against the dark sky. He recognizes the familiar patterns without naming them. He does not count anymore. There is no need. Knowing they are there is enough. The oven gives a quiet sound, subtle and low. The baker stands slowly, joints moving smoothly, without stiffness or strain. He opens the oven once more and gently removes the loaves, placing them carefully on the wooden board. Their crusts are darkened just right, edges crisp, surfaces cracked in familiar patterns. Steam rises softly, then fades. The baker does not rush. He lets them rest, knowing they will settle and soften in time. He sits again, watching the steam drift upward and disappear. This simple sight holds his attention completely. There is no rush to move forward, no need to plan what comes next. As the bread cools, the room seems to grow even quieter. The fire dies down to embers. The lantern flickers, then steadies. The baker's body feels pleasantly heavy, grounded by the long night's work. If you are still aware of the words, you may notice how heavy your own body feels now. Supported. Still. Calm. There is nothing to resist. The baker leans back slightly, resting against the stone wall. He closes his eyes, not to sleep fully, but to rest in the moment. The warmth, the quiet, the familiar sense. All of it blends into a gentle, soothing presence. Outside, the stars continue their slow journey. They do not hurry. They do not stop. They simply move, constant and sure. And inside, the baker remains at peace, knowing that when morning comes, the bread will be ready, the village will wake, and the rhythm will continue. For now, there is only this stillness, and you can rest inside it. Our story continues as the night reaches its deepest calm, that still hour when even time seems to pause and listen. The baker remains resting against the cool stone wall, the warmth of the room holding him in a gentle balance. The loaves sit nearby, silent and complete, their work finished for now. The lantern's light has dimmed further, casting only a small pool of glow across the floor. Beyond it, shadows blur into softness, no longer sharp or defined. The baker opens his eyes briefly, then closes them again, content to remain where he is. Outside, the sky feels vast and endless. Stars shimmer quietly, their light traveling a great distance just to reach this small village. The baker does not think about the distance. He simply accepts the presence of the stars, steady and familiar, like an old song played very softly. In medieval life, moments of complete quiet were rare but treasured. This is one of them. No voices, no tools, no movement that demands attention, only the slow passage of breath and the steady presence of the night. The baker's breathing deepens even more now. Each breath flows in smoothly and flows out just as easily. There is no effort in it. His body knows exactly how to rest. If you notice your own breathing matching this pace, that is perfectly natural. You do not need to guide it. You can simply allow it. The room cools slightly as the fire settles into embers. The baker wraps his arms loosely around himself, not from cold, but from comfort. The stone beneath him feels solid and reassuring, grounding him fully in the moment. His thoughts are barely there now. Images drift past without forming stories. A hint of starlight, the warmth of the oven, the feel of flour on his hands. Each sensation appears, then fades, leaving only calm behind. Time passes quietly. Somewhere far off, a faint sound echoes, perhaps a distant cart, perhaps only the wind. It does not matter. It arrives softly, then disappears again, leaving the silence intact. The baker allows himself to slip into a deeper rest, eyes closed, body heavy. This is not sleep yet, but something close to it. A place where awareness loosens and the world feels far away. The bread cools completely now, ready for morning. It waits without urgency, just as the baker does. Everything is prepared. Nothing is unfinished. You may feel as though you are floating gently now, no longer held tightly by thought or effort. This is the space where sleep begins to gather quietly, patiently. The baker remains still, breathing slow, the night wrapping around him like a soft blanket. The stars continue their steady movement overhead, unseen but always present. And in this calm, nothing more needs to happen. Softly now, as if the night itself is gently closing around you. There is nothing left to do, nowhere to go. Our story gently comes to rest as the night begins its slow transition toward morning, though no light has yet appeared. The baker remains where he is, eyes closed, body fully relaxed, breathing deep and even. The room holds him in quiet stillness, stone and wood, steady and unchanged. The lantern has finally dimmed to a faint glow, barely more than a suggestion of light. Shadows dissolve completely, blending into one soft darkness. The warmth of the oven lingers just enough to be comforting, like the memory of a fire rather than the fire itself. Outside, the stars continue their silent movement. Some begin to fade, not suddenly but gradually, as if preparing to hand the sky back to the day. The baker does not watch this change. His rest has deepened now, drifting beyond awareness. In medieval villages, this hour was sacred in its own way. It belonged neither to night nor to day. It was a pause between worlds, a moment of balance. The baker rests inside that pause, completely at ease. The bread lies finished and patient, its scent settled into the room, warm and grounding. It will nourish others soon, but for now, it simply exists, complete and whole. The baker has done his part. The rest will unfold naturally. His breathing slows further, becoming almost imperceptible. Each breath flows in gently and flows out just as gently. There is no tension left in his body, no thoughts pulling him awake, only rest. If you are still aware of the words, you may notice how distant they feel now, like sounds heard from far away. That is perfectly fine. You do not need to follow them any longer. The night seems to grow softer still, as if it too is settling into sleep. Even the air feels calmer, heavier, more still. The world holds its breath in a peaceful pause. The baker's dreams are simple now. There are no images, no stories, only a sense of warmth, safety, and quiet continuity. The same feeling that has carried him through countless nights of work and rest. And you can allow that feeling to carry you as well. There is nothing more to learn from the story, nothing more to wait for. The rhythm has been set, and it continues on its own, steady and calm. Soon the village will wake. The baker will rise. The bread will be shared. The stars will fade completely, but all of that belongs to later. Right now, there is only rest. You are safe, you are calm, you are supported. The words can fade now, dissolving into silence. Your mind can drift freely, unanchored by thought. Your body can sink deeper into comfort, held gently by the quiet. Sleep arrives naturally, without effort, without intention. Just drift and rest and sleep.